Stage for the conversation we're about to have, to vet or not to vet. Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya, who happens to be a seasoned administrator, former regional commissioner, had this to say after the president lifted the vetting, the extra vetting of the IDs.
Wale watu ambao wamekamata machifu wetu sasa watapewa vitambulisho ya Kenya freely. Watapewa. Sasa wakitoka pale wakienda kuteka nyara watu wengine wakikamatwa watakuwa wamebeba ID nani? Ya Kenya. Watakuwa wanasema wa Kenya wamekuwa watu kuteka nyara watu. These things ziko na serious security implications. Sio kitu ya kufanya kiholela namna hii. Itafika mahali hawa watu watakuja kwa wingi, hata MCA atachaguliwa, hata MP atachaguliwa, hata governor atachaguliwa, hata msukuchua president atachaguliwa na atakuwa mgeni, atakuwa Mkenya. Wengine wataingia kwa jeshi, wataingia kwa polisi. Itafika mahali escort commander wa president mwenyewe atakuwa mgeni, hatakuwa Mkenya. Saa hizi mataifa inaangalia mipaka. Ukienda Amerika, taifa kubwa linazuia watu kuingia kwenye taifa lake, wanazuia. Itakuwaje a small undeveloped primitive country inafungura mpaka namna hii ili watu wakuje bila wanataka? Tutakuwa na nchi wapi?
Gentlemen, thanks for your patience. And Ekuru, I'll start with you. Does the governor's concerns, are they valid? Does that move cause serious security implications, like he said?
Obviously, it does. I mean, I think it's the first time, I don't know, in the history of Kenya. If you remember the Kenyatta 1, Moi, Kibaki, then Kenyatta 2, there was never any such declaration that we can actually have Somalis being registered. Because me coming from Turkana, for example, imagine even me as a Turkana, born, bred Turkana, we are being vetted. But the President William Ruto has not said whether that is the situation in, say, in Turkana. Because in Turkana, I can speak Turkana. If I cross the border, I can speak Toposa. I cross the border to Ethiopia, I speak Nyangatom. If I cross the border to Uganda, I can speak Karamoja. But there is no such declaration. So the bigger question is this. President William Ruto is actually desperate for people who can vote for him in 2027. It's not only about the Somalis, by the way. I've also heard about the Burundians. And I hope my brother Charles can deny or confirm that. So we are allowing foreigners to participate. But it's not necessarily a bad idea. If you are in Kenya and you want representation, you must then be able to say who can represent me. But it has to be regularized. When I was a student 20 years ago in the UK, I used to get a penal notice on my door that you must vote or you pay a fine of about £100 back in the days. But it must be, it's about a representation.
Yeah. But
why about this particular group of individuals? And we have also seen the choreography from northeastern politicians. They are promising the president, it's all about 2027. Oh, we will give you 99%.
But there are those who say it was discriminative in the first place.
It is, because, see, then why are we not talking about other regions in Kenya? Why about northeastern? Because I was in Wajir during the Pastoralist Leadership Summit. And the conversation was about just election in 2027.
Okay.
But we don't hear that kind of conversation in the rest, in the other parts of the country.
Okay.
Yeah?
Is it a valid concern? Is this going to cause serious security implications, or, you know?
Yes and no. First of all, I think it is important to understand our history. The major concern today is about the Somali community. I think that is the major concern that people have come up with. But you remember most of these borders, like for example, if you go to the Gedo region, that is Jubaland, all the way to Kismayu, that stretch, that border just changed in 1919. It was Kenya. And you also remember that...
was it?
No, it was Kenya until 1919. You can check your records. Equally, Kenya and Uganda border, up to Naivasha, the border changed in 1902 after the arrival of the Kenya-Uganda Railway in Kisumu. And the British wanted the railway to be under one governor. So it meant if they put the railway under the governor of Uganda, then we would have lost the whole of Kenya. If we put the railway under the governor of Kenya, then we are only coming up to where we are today. So you find many communities we share the borders. For example, the Maasais of Kenya and the Maasais of Tanzania. These gentlemen, the Turkanas and the Karamojos and the Toposos, they are one tribe. Names are different. Now the Luos, we are found both in Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya. We have the Boranas. In fact, the bigger population, the bigger chunk of population of Borana is in Ethiopia. And as police officers, we used to take the fingerprints, especially for criminal offenses. We used to take fingerprints of communities living along the border, especially the Jaluo and the Boranas and the rest. They used to take 3 sets of fingerprints so that they set another set to the other country. Because maybe you could have committed offense there, now you have run to Kenya. Now, Somalia has 2 major sub-clans. We have the Darot and we have the Hawia. So the Darot, we have Ogaden, we have Majarten, and we have Marehan. Now, Darot, only Ogaden is in Kenya. So Ogaden, you find most of them in Garissa, Garissa region. And then the Hawia are the majority, where we have the Gare, the Merule, the Godogogia, and Ajuran. But along the border, we have a buffer. The Marehans are the buffer between Kenya and Somalia. Now, there is no Merehan in Kenya. Now, what happens, the Somalians are organized in a way that they are clan-based. If you go to Garissa, majorly they are Ogaden. If you go to Wajir, majorly they are Ajuran, Degodea, and Ogaden. If you go to Mandera, they are Gare, Marules, and Degodeas. Now, what happens is that they are also very careful amongst themselves because they also fear people moving from Somalia into Kenya because it may disturb their normal election patterns, because they have election patterns. For example, I want to give you an example. If you go to Mandera today, the governor is a Gare. The deputy is a Degodia. These are 2 major clans balancing. You go to Wajir, the governor is a Degodia, the deputy governor is Ogaden. Then Garissa, where there are majorities, where you find Ogaden are both governor and so on. Now, what we are talking about is extra vetting. Generally, we are all vetted when you are taking ID cards. For example, today my children, when they go to take ID cards, they want certificate for primary, they want certificate for maybe high school, they want to see both parents' IDs. You see, that's a form of vetting. But the vetting which the Somalians were subjected to be honest, promoted corruption. We just created an opportunity for people to eat.
So it did
because
not
when we had, yes,
it's just corruption.
If you look at it, there are a few people you can see. This one is not a. He's been vetted, but you can see this person is not a Somali, and it's not a Kenyan who is from Somalia. So what this removal of extra vetting is going to help is that it's going to limit corruption. But truly, if we were discriminating the Somalis by putting extra vetting, you find an individual who went to primary school, even here with Okuro. Somebody went to Aga Khan Primary School, he went to high school here, Lenana School, he went to University of Nairobi. And then you find his children are sent to Mandera to be vetted. They were born here. The documents are very clear. So there are people whom it's very obvious. But let me tell you, even amongst us, like for example now the Luos, you and I, when we speak, you can tell this one comes from Siaya. And even when we are in Siaya, you can tell this one comes from Alego, this one comes from Ugenya. So some of these things, we are just being cheeky. We can do away with this. And secondly, so no, it can be. Even Merehans. We know there is no clan, the Merehans are not found in Kenya. But if a Merehan can come here on a proper passport, and then he works here for a period of time, 7 years or so, he can just get Kenyan citizenship like any other person. Okay. So I think what is happening is we remove extra vetting to ensure that we don't promote corruption.
Okay.
Because even with this extra vetting, people are still finding themselves here.
Okay. The proponents say, Kuru, that this was discriminative, like what you had Charles saying, that someone may be born here, but then the extra vetting was an unnecessary inconvenience, and it only opened the floodgates for corruption. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think the challenge for the longest time has been, okay, there was very good intention back in the days as who actually deserves Kenyan identity. As a citizen, acquiring a national ID, back in the days, there was genuine concern. I think the challenge, Trevor, that we must be focusing right now is, why is this conversation ripe at the moment?
So it's the timing that you have a problem with?
I have the problem with the timing, and also with the fact that the government of the day is actually losing support in other regions. And personally, and the person of President William Ruto himself, noting that he's, for example, lost support in central Kenya and other parts of the country. So he's trying to consolidate support elsewhere. Because why is the Somali community a factor of debate about this, being Kenyans or citizenship? We've had this conversation for a long time. I mean, I think 1969, if I'm not wrong, or 1980s, there was a referendum where the Kenyan Somalis wanted to be part of Kenya or part of Somalia. And they rejected. They said, no, we want to be Kenyans. So the question is the timing.
Okay.
And what is really driving that timing is political persuasion.
So you don't see anything about security, about inclusivity, ensuring that the people who are born Kenyans but are from Somalia have a right to be given IDs without necessarily being taken through extra vetting?
You see, Trevor, we just had about 6 of our chiefs being abducted by, I don't know, allegedly Al-Shabaab. I don't know how true it is. Charles can confirm or deny that from a security perspective. So I just got a message from a friend who says to me, what if tomorrow one of our security guys is actually an Al-Shabaab? Because that's where probably we're going.
Okay.
And see, for me, the danger I raise is that, can we just not single this about the Somali community? Can we talk about, because Somali community is not the only community that is at the border point. We have the Turkana.
Okay.
We have the Luos, and you guys from Luo Nyanza, you border Uganda, Turkana, like I said, we border South Sudan. I can cross the border and become a Toposa. I can cross a border and become Nyangatom.
Okay.
I can cross a border and become Karamojong. So why Somali?
Okay.
What is very interesting is that Al-Shabaab are not only Somali people. We have had radicalization here. We have Kenyans. I remember there was a young man who was even an engineer who crossed over to Somalia and became a member of Al-Shabaab. And we have many people, Luos, Loyas, Kisis, who have become members of the bad group. So it is not only limited to the Somali community. I think what Okuru is concerned about, that I think is concerning most people, is that those in opposition are in kind of a panic mode. They are trying to imagine, hey, could the president be giving an opportunity to get extra? But how extra? How many Okuro can you bring within this short time between now and next year? How many people can you bring? And even the trend, and let me tell you, Okuro, you know, no position is permanent. And I think the president will tread very carefully, knowing that he will not be president forever.
Yeah.
He knows he has limits. He can be president for 5 years. Even if he goes for 2 terms, he can only be president for 10 years. And Kenya has grown so much democratically, Okuro, that to an extent that don't be surprised if one day a head of state is put to question in so many issues. So I don't think the president is blind to this fact.
Okay.
Just like you are saying that it could have been, it's a wrong timing because of the political perceptions. But if I look at it critically, I look at a situation where even the Kenya Somalis would not easily allow the Somalis to penetrate, because it has also implications in terms of job, employment opportunities and so on. And remember, Somalia having not been stable for a very long time, there are so many people in Somalia who are so moneyed that would wish to become members of this peaceful country. So what we are saying is that if we are removing the extra vetting with a good purpose, and me I can say the best thing about it is that it's going to limit the harassment and the corruption that was there in the extra vetting process. But these people know one another to an extent that today, if we are truly morally upright community, then we should not be able to get infiltrations. But when it comes to issues of Al-Shabaab, criminals coming in, they can still come in, whether even there is extra vetting or there's no extra. And I've told you, if we today go to the records of Somali people, you can find even 10%.
But I want to ask Charles, as a government official, why is this conversation right now timely?
I've just said that this could have been a process, but unfortunately, it has come at a time when the opposition is in panic mode, that probably government may be trying to allow more people to come in. But my question is, how many?
Do you have opposition in Kenya?
You are a member.
With the broad-based.
On that thought, hold on.
You know what is surprising me? Ekuro thinks opposition is Honorable Raila.
No.
Honorable Raila is just, look, one humble old man.
I did not say that.
No, because when you talk about broad-based, it's just ODM people and Baba.
Now take a quick break. We're coming back to this conversation just a bit, and also to hear from the people what their thoughts are on this, to vet or not to vet. See you in just a bit.